Hey, all you rock stars, what is really going on? You are indeed on the winning walk with Christina, and she's out and about this lovely, brisk, cool afternoon. How are you rock stars today? I hope all is going well for you at the start of this new year and that you're doing great, feeling great, because you're looking great. You look like the rock stars you are, and glad to know you. And I would be glad to know many more of you. I got a new subscriber over my break, and it's just been wonderful, and we're just going to go onward and upward from here. But this is another winning walk, and the topic of discussion for today is going to be about God experiences, things that God ordains for you that you don't really have a frame of reference for. You think about these things and you think that couldn't have been anything but the grace of God. There's no human explanation for it. I've been thinking on some of the things that have happened to me, some of the God experiences, and I'll try to relate two of them. But I've had so many, it's crazy. But there's two that have been coming back to me lately that I've been thinking about. And one is during a period in my life where I was what I call a baby believer, a baby Christian. I was getting to know the Lord, getting Bible study down, and really getting a routine of really learning more about Him and knowing Him, and just building my relationship with Him. And at this time, it was quite rough for us. Ray and I financially. Kadri wasn't born; she wasn't in the picture. We didn't have a house. We were sharing a car, and we were in a one-bedroom apartment, and we were scrambling to make ends meet and keep things on an even keel. At that time, I had lost my job, and I was trying to find another one. I got laid off, and I was trying to find another one, and I was kind of bouncing from job to job and putting out resumes and all of that stuff, which is just, finding a job is a job in unto itself. That's a full-time job when you're trying to find a job, and it was quite rough. Well, I found a job in a warehouse in the middle of summer. It was wretched and horrible, and I had applications in, but we needed the money really badly, so I was like, well, I will work this for as long as I can, but it was hot, no air conditioning, none of that. But we need the money, so I'm gonna hustle and do this as long as I can. And it was like the Lord heard me on that job. And a couple of days after I started working there, they brought in these big, huge warehouse type fans, which helped quite a bit. But it was still quite hot. And so I was working in there, and I would sort out merchandise and put them in different boxes and stuff. It wasn't a lot of heavy lifting, but it was a lot of merchandise. So we had quite the volume. So our hands and feet were moving. Well, excuse me, I was on a break one day. It was probably like second day I had been there, and this guy comes in. I didn't know very many people, but this guy comes in, and I was sitting in the break room reading a book, and he looked at me. He said, "Hi," and I said, "Hi." He said, "How long have you been here?" And I didn't know when he said, "How long have you been here?" Did he mean, how long you been working here? So I just thought, I just started. And he said, "Oh, okay." So I wasn't sure what he meant. He said, "Oh, okay." He said, "You work in this area over here?" I said, "Yeah." He said, Oh, he said, you reading a book? What you reading? And I was telling him about the book. I was telling him about the book I was reading, and he said, wow, and you reading too? That's just, wow, that's awesome. You ain't gonna be here very long. And he turned and he walked out the door. What? I mean, do you know something that I don't know? Are you a manager and is this your way of telling me you're fired? I mean, I was just like, why would you say that? Why would you say that? So that was Tuesday. Friday, I was at work. Same job. I got a call Friday, that Friday. And the lady on the phone was like, we would like for you to start Monday and we're going to pay you double what you're asking for. Okay. You know, that was a God encounter. I never saw that guy before. And after that, I never saw him again. But his first and last words to me were, oh, and you're reading? Wow. You ain't gonna be here very long. It's crazy. That's a God, what I call a God encounter. Where somebody is sent to you to give you a word that they couldn't possibly know that, save God gave that information to them. I mean, and it wasn't like he was saying it like he was guessing. Oh, you know, smart people don't usually last long there. It wasn't like that. There was a different cadence in the way he said it. You know, like, I'm sent to you to tell you, you're not gonna be here very long. And it was just, part of me was like, what do you mean by that? Am I gonna get fired? But the other part of me innately knew, because I had heard that cadence, that tone of voice before. That was just one instance. Then I was working with this guy at, you know, the job I retired from. I was working with this guy, and I worked with him for about the same time, probably about a week. I had been there probably like 10 years by then, and this guy was new. He came in on the training class, on one of the training classes we had. He came in and he worked there for about a week. Nice guy. Got to know him a little bit. He had just got married. He and his wife had, I don't know if it was one kid or two, I can't remember. But a real nice guy. And we just talked. We didn't talk about anything really but his family. He kind of sat with me for a little while, so I was sort of showing him the job and stuff like that. And we talked about his, you know, we talked about the job, and we talked about his family and some of the things that were expected of him on the job, you know, and some shortcuts that I had that I learned, I was showing him. No big deal. And so he got his permanent desk and he would sit behind me. And he was with us for probably about 2 more weeks after that. And I came in one day and he was packing his desk up. And I was like, where are you going? And he was like, I'm out of here. I can't do this. And I was like, what do you mean you can't do it? You're doing so well. I mean, it's not that you can't do it, you can. Is it something that, you know, I can help you with, or something you stuck on? You know, maybe it's just something that, you know, we can work out, because you're good. I mean, you're really good. You really can do it, and you are doing it. Don't leave. And he was like, no, it's not that. This place is just, it's not for me. I mean, it's for you, but it's just not for me. And so when he said that, I was just like, something in me was like, well, you know, he's made his decision. I was kind of sad to see him go. Look, well, I hate to see you go. I enjoyed talking to you and stuff. And his last words out the door to me, he said, I enjoyed sitting behind a real Christian. I enjoyed sitting behind a real Christian. I enjoyed getting to know you. And I'm glad that I got to sit behind a real Christian. He just kept saying, real Christian, real Christian. And again, we never talked about faith. We never talked about what he believed, what I believed. We talked about the job. We talked about his wife and his kids. So it was that same cadence, that same voice. And when he said that, it hurt me even more because the environment that I was in didn't lend itself to discuss your faith. In fact, you were discouraged not to. Don't proselytize on the job, and don't bring Jesus in here, and that's just religious, and we're not religious here. We're not gonna be, that kind of undertone. It was like, discouraged. If you love the Lord, shut up about it. It's pretty much what it was. So that wasn't allowed. And there were some evil people I work with that would make sure you didn't proselytize without getting in a whole bunch of trouble. So the fact that he was saying real Christian, it hurt me because I thought to myself, this is somebody who knows the Lord and loves the Lord too, and he's leaving. And it was just a handful of us at the time. So it hurt me to see him go, but I understood that the job I was doing was not for everybody. It really wasn't for me, but I was just doing it to take care of my family and stuff. And because I'd been there so long, I had just settled. So when he left for a while, a little after he left, I was sunk in, and I was just like, wow, what a nice guy. A couple of days later, our boss comes to us, and he comes to me and he says, you remember the guy who just left? And I said, yeah. Now, this guy, I don't even remember his name. God, I want to say Andrew, but I'm not sure if it's Andrew. It's been years ago. So I just call him Andrew. You remember Andrew? I said, yeah. I said, yeah, Andrew just left here. He said, well, the night or the day that he left here, he went home, and a couple of hours later, he had a heart attack and passed. I was like, what? Now, Andrew couldn't have been 30 years old. He couldn't have been 30 years old. He did not appear to be living with any risk factors that would cause a heart attack at all. He was in good shape, nice looking guy, young guy, just got married, had kids. I had to sit down because it was like somebody had doubled up their fist and just hit me in the center of my solar plexus. I had to sit down. I had to sit down. My head was spinning. I was like, what do you mean he passed? He was like, he passed. He went home, a couple hours later, he passed. I was in shock, and I didn't know what to make of that. I didn't know what to make of that. All I could do once the shock subsided and the sadness kind of subsided, because that really hurt me. Nice guy. I just thank the Lord for knowing Andrew, for knowing him. It was so brief, but again, that was another God encounter, another God voice that I heard. And I've heard so many. I'm going to try to remember as many as I can and share those with you. And I would love to hear your stories about your God encounters and your hearing of the voice of God. When we think of hearing the voice of God, we think of hearing this sound, thunder out of heaven, and a bush to appear in front of us and be blazing with fire, and the Lord speaking to us out of the bush. No. Notice that hasn't happened since Moses. There's a reason for that. Not saying that the Lord couldn't speak to you out of a burning bush, but 9 times out of 10, the Lord is going to speak to you with a voice, through the voice of people who care for you, who love you, who are willing to tell you what thus says the Lord. That's how you're going to hear the voice of God. That's a God encounter. There are situations that the Lord sets up that nobody can explain, and that's one of them. That's 2 of them that have happened. They weren't circumstance. They weren't lucky encounters. They were God visitations. They were God encounters. And that's just one of several that I want to share with you. But I want to hear yours. Leave some God encounters in the comments for me. I would like to hear about them, because I know some of y'all have had the same experiences, if not all. If you sit and think about it, you've had 1 or 2 God encounters already. You might not have considered them to be God encounters, or you might know, just like I know, you know what, that wasn't God right there. And I say that a lot. That was nothing but God right there. Tell me about them. I love hearing them. I love hearing how the Lord speaks to people, because he has a way of speaking to all of us. He's just that gracious and just that vast and broad, where he can speak to you in your language and touch your heart with his voice. Y'all have an awesome, awesome day.